Valve has made its third expected announcement this week, and it's a controller. The Steam controller.
The Steam controller.
The Steam controller.
The idea is to make whole genres of games that were previously only playable with a keyboard and mouse easier to play on the TV.
The Steam controller had so much potential, but face-planted into gravel the moment it released. I want to love this thing, but it didn't just stumble, it tripped, it rolled down a hill, and landed in a ditch. If you followed this channel for a while, you probably know that I have an unhealthy obsession with this thing, but I truly believe it holds an important place in history. The Steam controller wasn't just another gamepad. It was Valve's attempt to shake up the gaming industry, to challenge the decades-old design of the modern controller and offer up something truly unique. And while it didn't stick the landing, it planted seeds that are still growing today. Welcome to Zesty as Tech, by the way. This video is more for your ears than your eyes, so feel free to throw me into another tab right after you hit subscribe. To understand why the Steam controller existed, we have to go back to 2015. This was the era of Valve's ambitious Steam Machine project, a line of PC-based consoles designed to bring the Steam gaming experience to the living room. Think of them as proto-Steam Decks, except for instead of a sleek handheld, they were clunky third-party PCs shoved into console-sized boxes. They didn't do so well. One of the many problems they needed to overcome was the controls. Most PC games are designed with a keyboard and mouse in mind. Back in 2015, it was still fairly common for some games not to support a gamepad at all, compared to today when most PC games are already optimized for a controller. But at the time, Valve knew that if they wanted people to play PC games from the comfort of their couch, they needed a controller that could handle the entire Steam library, and I mean everything in the Steam library, from first-person shooters to real-time strategy games and even point-and-click adventures. That's a tall order for any controller. And that's where the Steam controller came in. Valve threw out the rulebook and reimagined what a gamepad could be. In early models, they eliminated joysticks entirely. They had 4 buttons in the center. It was bolder than the final version turned out to be. In the end, they went with 1 left joystick and 2 massive touchpads with haptic feedback. As trackpads, you can imagine they functioned as such when using them to control a mouse cursor. When it came to analog stick replacement, you could toggle between different modes, but the most standout was the way that you could emulate a trackball. The idea was to give you way more control than an analog stick could provide. You could make big movements that carried momentum, as well as small micro adjustments. Valve achieved their goal of creating a new kind of controller that would work for any PC game. There is an alternate universe where this became the default PC controller, but it's not the one we're living in. Let's break down everything that went into the controller because Valve really threw in everything in the kitchen sink. Fill that thing up with features no matter the cost. First, dual stage triggers. These weren't technically new, but they had been thrown aside by Nintendo. They're essentially the GameCube triggers. A light press would do one thing, and a full press would do something entirely different. It would actually click at the end. Imagine aiming down sights with a gentle squeeze and then firing with a harder press. There's a learning curve, but once you got a handle on it, it was really effective. They still worked as traditional analog triggers, but they doubled the amount of possible inputs. You know how certain controllers will let you flip a switch to go between clicky and analog modes on your triggers? This brought the best of both worlds to whatever game you wanted. And then there were the grip buttons on the back. These are fairly commonplace today, and Valve weren't the very first ones to implement them, but it added even more input methods to help compete with a keyboard. What's usually a big upsell for elite versions of first-party controllers came standard. I don't think I need to elaborate on the value of these when you can map them to anything you want. They also threw in a gyroscope for good measure. I, and many others, are big fans of gyro aim. You could map this to whatever you wanted. There are some freaks out there who use this to control their mouse, and I have nothing but respect for those people. The trackpads were, of course, the main event. This could act as a mouse, a scroll wheel, a D-pad, or even buttons. Need to access a radial menu in a game? Trackpads got you covered. Want to bind all your item slots in Resident Evil 5 to a single pad? Easy. Earlier concept versions of the controller included a little screen in the center, but ultimately, Valve decided that the touchpads were the only touch interface that was needed because they were so versatile. And the haptic feedback? Yum. It's not quite as refined as something like the Taptic engine that Apple includes on iPhones, but it really did give the pads a tactile feel that made them extremely enjoyable to use. The controller didn't include rumble, but you had an option to just make the trackpads go bananas. In the right hands, with the right setup, the Steam controller could be downright magical. Take Metroid Prime with the Prime Hack mod, for example. The trackpad let you look around with ease, the gyro gave you precise aiming, and the customization options meant that you could fine-tune the controls to perfection. It felt like the game was designed for the controller. Another great use case was Okami. Drawing with the trackpad and gyro was faster and more accurate than a stick or a mouse. In some games, like this one, the Steam controller wasn't just good, it was the best option. Unfortunately, all of that innovation came at a price. Let's start with the build quality. Valve somehow crammed all of these features into a $50 price tag. And that sounds great, I'm not here to complain that something is affordable, but once you hold it, the plastic feels cheap, the face buttons are mushy, and the bumpers are ridiculously stiff. It's like they spent their budget on the features and forgot about the fundamentals of what actually makes a good controller. And like I said, you can have the trackpads go bananas, but it didn't have any traditional rumble, which combined with how light the controller was, just felt cheap. On top of that, the trackpads had a steep learning curve. If you've used a mouse your whole life, the trackpads would feel awkward and imprecise, at least at first. There's a technique to using them, barely touching the surface for smooth movement, using the gyro for aiming to help you make small adjustments, but it's something that you can't just pick up immediately. For a lot of people, it was a lot easier to just stick with what they already knew. Then there's customization, which by all accounts should be a great thing. Valve's Steam input software was powerful, borderline revolutionary, but it was also overwhelming. You could map every button, create action layers, and even use mode shifting to double or triple the functionality of the controller. But if you're a casual gamer, do you really want to spend 30 minutes setting up your controls before you can start playing? It wasn't every game, like certainly the ones that had built-in native controller support were easier, but it was still a factor. As far as I know, Valve never published any sales numbers for the controller, but it's hard to consider it anything but a complete failure considering they discontinued it in 2019 and have yet to replace it with any other first-party option. So why did it flop? Honestly, it was the perfect storm of issues. Poor marketing meant most gamers didn't know it existed, the build quality didn't match the innovation, and the steep learning curve combined with the overwhelming options turned off casual players. Some people still swear by this thing. It's not objectively a bad controller. I don't think it's objectively a good one either. The other issue was game support. Many PC games weren't designed to handle the Steam controller's unique inputs. You could always create custom configurations or download community-made ones, but it wasn't always seamless. And when it didn't work, it really didn't work. But here's the thing. Failure doesn't mean irrelevance. The Steam controller might be gone, but the ideas live on. Valve's Steam input software is now a game changer, allowing you to customize any controller from an Xbox pad to a DualSense. It even enabled innovations like gyro aiming and flick stick, pushing the boundaries of what controllers can do. And let's talk about the Steam Deck. It's like the Steam controller's spiritual successor, combining the trackpads and gyro with a much better design and, more importantly, a much better build quality. Valve took the lessons that they learned from the Steam controller and applied them to create a truly groundbreaking device. I think the biggest thing they learned is that they needed to provide traditional controls as an option. You can get funky with the touchpads and gyro, but anyone who picks up a Steam Deck doesn't have any sort of learning curve to overcome. I'm personally disappointed that they didn't carry over the dual stage triggers as they were. They didn't abandon it entirely. The deck will give a bit of haptic feedback indicating a full trigger pull, but it's not the same without the physical mechanism. I could not be more excited because all rumors right now are pointing to a new Steam controller. It took them way too long, but Valve is taking another swing at it. Better late than never. When it comes out, I think the world will be ready for it. Gyro aiming is becoming more mainstream, customization is less intimidating because it's more of an option than something that's required for most games, and I think gamers are more open to an alternative control scheme than they were in 2015. If Valve can strike the right balance between innovation and usability, I think that it's going to be very successful. In the end, the Steam controller wasn't perfect, but it wasn't a complete failure either. It was a bold experiment and one that paved the way for better controllers and new ways to play. And while it may have stumbled out of the gate, its legacy is still shaping the way we game today. So what do you think? Are you excited for the next Steam controller? Are you a fan of the original? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for listening, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and consider supporting the channel on Patreon. I'll see you in the next one.